Why is the president going to Delaware this weekend?
He is from Delaware and has a home there and is going to spend the weekend with his wife and family there.
But the guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as you know, in the White House briefing just a couple of hours ago, was big X over airplanes. People should avoid travel. Is there an exception to that policy?
Well, the key, Zeke, is ensuring that people don't take steps to make others vulnerable in our effort to get the pandemic under control. As you know, any president of the United States, Democrat or Republican, obviously takes Air Force One, a private plane, when they travel. Delaware is his home, and so he looks forward to spending the weekend there and some time with his family.
Changing gears a little bit, we know that the president's been vaccinated. Has he been receiving regular tests for the coronavirus while he's been here at the White House? We haven't seen since the transition sort of an update on his testing.
I'm happy to get back to you on that and provide you an update. He has, as you know, received his second vaccination, which was done in public.
You continue to say that you're hopeful that Republicans will still get on board, that you can achieve bipartisanship. But we haven't seen any movement on the Republican side. The fundamental differences remain the same. What gives you hope and optimism that Republicans are suddenly going to come around here?
Well, I think, one, the vast majority of the American people support this package that would bring relief to American families, that would get shots in the arms of the American people, and would help reopen schools. Those are not Democratic ideals. They're not Republican ideals. They are American ideals. So we still keep the door open to seek ideas to make the package stronger from any Republican or other Democrats who want to bring them forward.
But outside an hour ago, Speaker Pelosi said absolutely when asked if the COVID stimulus would pass by March 15th. Is that, do you also share that confidence that it would pass by mid-March when those unemployment benefits run up?
Never doubt Speaker Pelosi in anything she says. That's kind of a lesson I've learned in Washington. She is a powerful and fierce force up there. We're not going to set a timeline from here. It is a bill that would be passed by Congress, of course. Speaker Pelosi is, the Speaker of the House, so certainly we would defer to her, and the President looks forward to signing the bill when it comes to his desk.
Do you feel an urgency to get it passed by that date, then?
We feel an urgency to move it forward as quickly as possible. And I think what you're referring to is kind of the unemployment cliff that will hit in March. But certainly we would like to see action as quickly as possible, as we've been saying, but I'm not going to set a new deadline from here. Obviously, we're working closely with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, every day. Go ahead on the way back.
Thank you very much, Jen. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Two Asia questions, if I may.
Sure.
On engaging with China, yesterday President Biden said he will work with allies and partners. However, also on yesterday, French President Macron said, quote, "A situation to join all together against China. This is a scenario of the highest possible conflictuality. This one, for me, is counterproductive," end quote. So what exactly does President Biden expect from the U.S. allies?
From our U.S. allies? Well, we are going to work in close consultation, of course, in partnership with our U.S. allies on a range of issues. We talked about Iran a little bit earlier in the briefing. Of course, strategic competition with China is part of that. But I can only really speak for what our policy is here from this White House and the United States. This administration sees the United States as engaged in strategic competition with China, and technology is a central domain of that competition. We should have no illusions about China's objectives, which are to undercut America's long-standing technological advantage and to displace America as the global leader in cutting-edge research and development and the technologies and industries of the future. The national security and economic consequences of allowing that to happen are simply unacceptable. That's certainly what the president conveys in his conversations with our partners and allies. But this is a major reason why the president is committed to making major investments in science and technology research and development, as well as supply chain security. And we will leverage the full breadth of authorities available to us to protect U.S. national and economic security interests. That's our position here, and obviously he will communicate that to allies and partners as he's having engagements with them. Did you have a second question?
Actually, Asian American women actually have the highest jobless rates for the past 6 months. And the report indicates that's because of racism during the pandemic against them. So other than sign the memo, what President Biden can do to reduce the racism against Asian Americans and help them to actually find a job or to deal with their current situation?
Well, certainly one of the things that he can do is speak out against racism of any form, but also how it impacts a range of communities. Asian Americans, of course, communities of color. And one of the factors we've seen in data about COVID, of course, is that the pandemic has had an undue impact on many communities, including many communities of color. I don't have the exact data on Asian American communities specifically, though I'm happy to check on that. But his focus is on getting the pandemic under control in order to help provide a bridge to economic relief and recovery, and that's one of the ways he can help address that.
I'd like to follow up on the issue of school reopenings. Dr. Walensky had said at a previous briefing there is increasing data to suggest that schools can safely reopen and that they can safely reopen without teachers getting vaccinated. You then said the official CDC guidance is not out yet, but there is some urgency to this because schools are making their decisions right now about how and when to reopen. So does the Biden administration have an assessment today about whether schools can reopen with or without teachers getting vaccinated?
Well, first, the guidance will come officially from the CDC, as Dr. Walensky, who leads the CDC, would certainly convey to you. And what we're all conveying, and what I just did a few minutes ago, is convey that there's a lot of data that shows that it is, of course, we're looking at vaccines. That's an important part of keeping teachers and the American public safe. But we also need to look at other mitigation steps, I should say, including masking, social distancing, proper ventilation in schools. And the urgency should prompt Democrats and Republicans, many Democrats are, to come together to support the American Rescue Plan so we can get schools the funding they need. Schools are planning, but many of them don't have the funding they need to take the steps necessary to reopen.
Do you know when the CDC specifically is going to put out that guidance?
I would certainly point you to the CDC for more specifics on that.
So we know the president's doing an interview before the Super Bowl on Sunday. I mean, I'm guessing that's going to be an opportunity to reach a huge audience with your recovery plan. Is that going to be what he's going to use it for? And I guess also I'd like to know how will the president be watching the game and who he'll be rooting for?
Who he'll be rooting for? Oh boy. That's my first way to get hate mail from one part of the country. There's a division among our senior staff, I will admit, on this particular question, but I won't name names. The president will be watching the game in Delaware with his family, of course, his wife, Dr. Biden. In terms of the interview, and as you know, CBS is hosting the Super Bowl this year, and there's a long tradition of networks doing an interview with the president, so that will certainly be part of what you will see on Sunday. He, of course, the anchor who is doing the interview will ask whatever the anchor wants to ask. That's how these things occur. But his objective is certainly to convey to the American people that he knows this time is difficult. He knows it requires a great deal of sacrifice. He's incredibly grateful to the healthcare workers, to the frontline workers, to people who are working every day to keep us safe. And hopefully he will have the opportunity to reiterate the measures that we can take. Masking, social distancing, of course, ensuring that people are getting the vaccine when they're eligible to get the vaccine, and update the public on his efforts to do exactly that.